So based on the surveys that you took after doing the practice exams, I came up with sort of a list of tips based on your questions. Some of them were definitely more about specific like content. And so hopefully through either watching my video or watching AP Live, you got the answers that you were looking for there. And I'll be doing some videos like specific to just going over things like your perfectly competitive, side by side, long run equilibriums and that sort of stuff shortly. But I wanted just some generic tips and things that I think will help not just for my exams, but for all of the exams, kind of based on your questions and what I've been seeing on the College Board webinars and things like that. So here are my 9 tips that I have for you. So first off, only have materials for the specific test near you, right? So whatever test you're taking that day, get everything else off of your desk, off of your bed, your floor, wherever it is you're going to be on when you're taking it. Have only the specific materials and only what you actually think you're going to need, right? Maybe, put the textbook away. It's going to take way too long to search for stuff in there. Have whatever little cheat sheets you're going to have. And then that's it, right? You should really be relying on your memory a lot rather than searching, because searching, even if you're organized, takes time. But organize yourself as best as possible so that you don't waste any extra time if you do have to search for yourself. Tip 2, scrap paper. Have it available, right? But also have it properly labeled. The paper you should be using for your written responses, they've directed should be white lined paper. So maybe have, just like plain old printer paper or something near you that you use as scrap, write scrap on top of it, something. But you might just need to scribble down formulas, labels, things messier than what you actually want to write if you're responding by uploading a picture of what you've written, or maybe you're somebody who's typing things in, but you need to just be able to work out the material on your own. So have that scrap paper next to you. Tip 3, and I always tell you to do this, and a lot of times people don't do it, but read the entire question before you start answering. Okay, especially because getting yourself organized is going to be key with this particular test, because they're not giving you a specific spot to write your answer, right? You're either having to type it into a Word doc, write it by hand, or typing it into their boxes that are available. So keeping yourself organized, and I would actually label the spaces for the question answers as you're reading. So if there's A, 1, and 2, leave yourself plenty of space either in your Google Doc or on your sheet for A, 1, and 2 so that you don't miss any particular bits. And can I move my little photo here? I can. All right. So if it's asking for an explanation or for you to show your work, don't forget you have to do that. You might either lose a point on the explanation, even if you answered the question right and get a point for that, or sometimes the showing of your work is required just to get the 1 point for that question. So make sure you don't forget to leave space for showing your work. Tip, hold on. 4, complete the problem as much as you can with what you know before searching for answers. Again, and I've experienced this when I give open notebook quizzes and tests before, where I find kids actually do worse because they spend so much time searching that they forget to actually think about the question, right? You guys know this stuff. So do as much as you can with what you know before you go searching. All right, it wastes time and it makes you second guess yourself. So don't do it unless you have to. Next up, tip 5. Okay, so look, graphing, I've had a hard time finding an official answer for this. Even one webinar said one thing at the start and another thing later. So I would recommend just don't draw graphs unless you have no other way of explaining it. But really, you should be able to explain a graph by saying this curve shifts right or left, or this curve increases or decreases. Stay away from ups and downs, all right? But go ahead and figure out ways right now while you're doing these practice bits of how you would describe what happens in a graph rather than having to rely on graphing it. So really verbally explaining it or written, explanation rather than graphing is what you should be trying to do. But if you have to graph because you're not sure how else to do it, also try and put an explanation with it just in case. Tip 6. Okay. If a question is based off of the previous answer, let's say you gave an answer for part C, and then part D says, based on your answer to part C, blah, 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 blah. Even if you think you got part C wrong, operate as if it's correct. So if it was an increase or a decrease question and you said, aggregate supply increases, well, all of your next answers for part D base it on aggregate supply increasing. Because if you can adequately answer what would happen if that were true, you'll get the points for it. You'll lose the points for the initial incorrect answer, but you can get the other points following. So I would just kind of, whatever you put as an answer, just go with it from there. Okay, next up, tip 7. All right, if you feel like you are running out of time, because look, they have set up these questions to give you a lot of information because they don't want you to have a lot of time to spend to search through a textbook or to Google things. They don't want you being able to collaborate easily because they want to make sure they've given you a lot of questions. Supposedly, they also want to make sure they gave you a lot because maybe you're stronger with one topic than another and you don't have the multiple choice to kind of save you. So if you feel like you're running out of time, focus on what you can complete accurately and make sure that you've written your answers properly, clearly, rather than trying to finish every single thing. Look, if you leave half the questions blank, that's not great. But if you leave off a part F, that's okay. They would rather that you answer everything well than half-ass answer everything else. Pardon my mouth. All right, so let me move myself around so you can see the rest of my things here. And again, make sure you've properly labeled your parts. So label A1, A2, and so on and so forth. Next tip. Give yourself at least 3 minutes to upload. Look, the way it's set up is that the first question is a 25-minute question with 5 minutes to upload, and then the next question is a 15-minute with 5 minutes to upload. My big concern is you've got kids from around the entire world who are all trying to upload at the same time. And so, God forbid something goes wrong, you don't want to have only 30 seconds left and something goes kaplooey. Not to mention, if you are uploading either Google Docs that you've written in, Word documents, if you are uploading pictures from your phone to your computer, you need to make sure that you have time to get every single one of those pictures up there. You can upload up to 5 documents per question. All right. You definitely shouldn't need that for these tests. I would imagine maybe like 2 pages for, part 1 and maybe 1 page for part 2. But whatever, if you write neater, larger, go for it. But make sure you leave that time to upload. Now, with question 1, as long as you hit submit, so you've uploaded all your stuff and then you hit submit, before that 5 minutes are up, it'll keep uploading the rest of the way during question 2. But the second question, you don't have that buffer. So you definitely need to make sure then that there's enough time after question 2 that it can 100% upload before those 5 minutes are up. So you have to really keep an eye on the clock. And when that goes to that red 5 minutes, pay attention. All right. And lastly, and I think this is perhaps the most important, breathe. You guys have got this, all right? Assuming you've been doing a little bit of prep work, you've been studying a little bit, you got this. It's a weird situation, and I know sometimes being at home can be even more distracting than being in a classroom with a bunch of random kids. So set yourself up in a comfortable place. But if you feel yourself freaking out, you're getting stressed, you're not sure how to deal with a question, take 30 seconds, walk away from your computer or your phone or wherever you're doing the test, and just take a breath, right? You're better off taking 30 seconds to center yourself and then refocus than sitting there and like racking your brain and spiraling out of control. So you have the opportunity, unlike a regular exam, to get up and move around your room and take a second for yourself. So do it, right? I don't want you taking 5 minutes, but like 30 seconds is plenty and is enough that you can kind of regroup, but it's not so much that you're going to kill yourself. So anything else you guys need beforehand, any other tips, you let me know. I'm going to be posting content specific videos soon. All right. I miss you guys and I'll talk to you soon.